Cette mission, organisée conjointement par la République sœur du Kenya et de la nôtre, regroupant plusieurs hommes d'affaires, tant kenyans que congolais, a pour mission la promotion et la consolidation des relations commerciales et économiques entre nos deux États. A conduit cette mission et aux hommes d'affaires kenyans pour le choix judiciaire de la République démocratique du Congo comme destination de prédilection pour les affaires en général et en particulier la province du Nord Kivu.
Equity Group CEO Dr. Mwangi said the bank has set aside $5 billion for entrepreneurs to invest in farming, tourism, manufacturing, logistics, among other sectors.
There would be no better force of changing Africa than the business community. The business community, all entrepreneurs, organizes resources, takes the risks, and create products and services for the consumers, and in the process, they create wealth. The real cure to African challenge is wealth.
Citing Serena Hotel, Goma, as an example of cross-border investments, Dr. Mwangi said Goma and the surrounding region has a huge tourism investment potential.
Hasten your steps and invest in DRC. The tourism opportunity here is big. I was envious last night to see the hospitality in the lake. It's only by collaboration and partnerships that we can progress and take the continent to the next level.
East and Central Africa region has a long history of trade that has continued to the present. Indeed, the DRC is the 6th largest market of Kenyan goods.
Beyond having an embassy, we have now brought in a commercial attaché to confirm the importance of this region, Goma region. From the month of October, we started direct flights from Nairobi to Goma. When we started, we were doing 2 flights a week. Right now, we are doing 3. And we are looking forward to having daily flights.
Although the Eastern DRC has been the subject of news on insecurity, the delegates learned that intensity of conflict is low. In Bujimai, the governor of Kasai Oriental, Janet Muswamba, said Equity CDC is an asset. She said the province has the longest section of the mighty Congo River and there are opportunities for investments in agriculture, mining, tourism, water and energy utilities.
Je voudrais également saluer les membres du gouvernement provincial et plus particulièrement celle des opérateurs économiques de ma province, dont la présence traduit tout l'intérêt qu'ils attachent à l'ouverture au monde à travers les échanges commerciaux.
Participated in the trade mission, the initiative was an eye-opener that will herald a new beginning for Eastern and Central Africa.
Mkutano unakuwa nzuri kwangu kwa sababu ninakutana na entrepreneur wa kutoka Kenya na ninajua kama tutafanya partenaria, ile tunaita partenaria, kwa sababu niko frame international, najua kama nitakuwa international kabisa kwa sababu pamoja na entrepreneur kutoka Kenya tutaungana pamoja na tutaendelesha uchumi wetu kwenye Kongo pia na kwenye Nairobi.
I would like to add the Kenyan population, the people who can do business here in Congo. There are a lot of opportunities here. Please come and let's move together. Let's exploit these opportunities so that we can move forward as a community in Kenya.
A big appreciation to the government of DRC and to the government of Kenya for First, bring in 250 companies from Kenya to come and see the opportunities here. And Equity BCDC being able to show us the way, telling us we've been here before 7 years, this is how we've been able to prosper, this is how we've been able to transform lives in this economy, and telling us, come, we want to do business with you. That is not something to be taken lightly, getting all of us here.
This was a very good call for both countries, and especially I thank Equity for facilitating this, because for many participants I've been able to talk to, is an eye-opener for them.
Every day, over 15 million members are transforming Africa. $15 million members, empowered to learn, to create, to grow, to harvest, to lead, to dream. Equity. Karibu member.
It's the dawn of a new day over Mbeya in Tanzania, a country that has the potential to supply food to the region, and particularly rice, for which it has a clear comparative advantage. Rice as a food and cash crop is the second most treated cereal in Tanzania after maize. It is grown in many parts of the country, but mostly in southwestern region where farmers grow the crop by irrigation and rain-fed production. Mbeya rice lands account for most of the national rice output. Most of the rice produced here is high-quality Salo rice variety. A significant proportion of the lower yielding but more aromatic rice, mwenda mbio, is also grown here.
Tuna mpango wa kutafuta masoko nje kwa sababu mashine ya kumenyea tunayo. Godown la kuhifadhia tunalo. Kwa hiyo issue hapo ni kutafuta, tuna mpango wa kutafuta masoko nje ili tuweze kuuza mchele badala ya mpunga. Tukipata soko Kenya, tukipata soko Uganda, tukipata soko Malawi, madam liwe soko tu lenye tija.
Naishukuru serikali kwa sababu kwanza imetujengea miundombinu. Tuna mifereji sisi hapa. Kwa maana hiyo tunaweza kulima wakati wote. Naweza kulima wakati wa kiangazi, naweza kulima pia wakati wa masika. Na hili bonde letu linakubali muda wote kufanya kilimo hiki cha mahindi.
The prospect for export of rice to the East African Community member countries, which now includes the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is immense. Kenya alone is a huge market. With an annual demand for almost 1 million metric tons against local production of only 180,000 metric tons, the shortfall is met by shipped imports from faraway Thailand, Pakistan, India, and Myanmar. A sizable 37,000 metric tons are hauled in by road from neighboring Tanzania. A review of the rice subsector by Equity Bank revealed that financial support of the whole rice value chain would not only increase production but also increase stakeholders' income to ultimately transform lives and livelihoods. Equity's initial partnership with farmer members of Ipatagwa Rice Scheme reveals that there is a hunger for support of rice farmers who own between an acre and 10 acres. While financial support is necessary, entrepreneurship training is critical to ensure farmers practice farming as a business.
Sasa wewe kujua kwamba kule kuna soko, unahitaji mtu wa pili kukupa jicho, si ndio? Sasa ndio maana hiki kitu tumekuja sasa. Kuhakikisha kwamba tunaunganisha wakulima wetu, wazalishaji na masoko ambayo yako nje ya Tanzania. Kwa maana kama kuna watu wako Kongo, wako Rwanda, wako Kenya, basi wapate kujua kwamba sasa hizi tuna mchele ambao tunategemea wapi? Isenyera.
Mimi na familia yangu tunalima eka 7 na mpunga. Equity inawahisha mkopo kuletu. Kwanza haina usumbufu wowote. Sisi wakina mama tukikopa hiyo mikopo itatufaidisha sana kwenye kilimo, hasa hata kwenye pembejeo. Sisi wakina mama tukipata pembejeo nasi tutakuwa juu zaidi.
Tangia mwaka jana 2021 nimeweza kuingia kuomba mkopo katika benki ya Equity. Kweli niweza kuomba milioni 5 na benki ilinipa kwa muda mwafaka. Nilikuwa ninalima ekari 3 lakini kwa 2001-2002 nimeweza kulima ekari 12 na nilivuna gunia 187.
Ipatago scheme is but one of the 5 rice schemes that are over 1,500 acres each, with Mbuyuni at double that acreage. In all these schemes, rice is grown by irrigation from waters drawn from Kimani River, a tributary of Rufiji River downstream. During Nane celebrations held in Mbeya, Tanzania President Samia Suluhu Hassan re-emphasized the importance of rice production at an event where farmers received delivery of power tillers from Equity.
Mheshimiwa Rais, tumetumia kama wakulima wa kikundi cha Ubaso kutoka wilaya Mbarali. Tumeanza kunufaika mwaka wa jana 2021-2022. Tumepewa power tiller 35 kutoka Equity na trekta moja aina ya Mahindra. Zimetusaidia kutoka kwenye kipato cha gunia 15 mpaka kufika gunia 40 kwa heka moja.
Katika mwaka 2021, sekta hizi za kilimo zilichangia 26% kwenye pato la taifa. Zikatoa ajira kwa wananchi wastani wa 65.6 na kuchangia 65% ya upatikanaji wa malighafi ya viwanda. Pia zilichangia kiwango cha utoshelevu wa chakula kinachozalishwa hapa nchini kwa zaidi ya 100% na kuzalisha ziada kwa ajili ya soko la nje. Hata takwimu kutoka Benki Kuu ya Tanzania zinaonyesha kwamba katika mwaka 2021 bidhaa ya mchele pekee imeingizia taifa jumla ya shilingi bilioni 476.8 ikilinganishwa na shilingi bilioni 176.5 kwa mwaka 2020.
By far, the most challenging aspect of the rice value chain is marketing. A director of Ruhie Rice Milling and Warehousing Service Company, Raphael Mbaise, has 55,000 bags of paddy in his stores. The farmer, Camilla, started with 1.5 acres of land under rice, but today he produces rice on 200 acres. With 20 tons milling capacity per day, Mbaise could clear his warehouses by milling the paddy, but instead he staggers the milling because of a constricted market outlets. Mbaise's views have advised Equity's determination to partner with stakeholders on the rice value chain to provide project finance for warehouse construction and payment solutions for wholesale and retail traders.
Our rice is sold in various regions, say Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar, Tunduma, and Mwanza. But all these points, they are related to outside the country. So those who are taking our rice to Tunduma, they are looking at the Congo market. And those who are going to Mwanza, actually, they are going to Kenya direct.
The bank is ready to provide asset financing for mechanization of farming and for transport of exports and imports to various destinations across East Africa.
So we as Equity Bank, we have committed that we'll link our farmers to those markets because they appreciate that buyers from Congo-DRC, buyers from Rwanda, Kenya, they offer them a reliable market and good price for their produce.
Rice is not the only crop grown in the region. Maize, the most traded cereal in the country, is also grown here alongside wheat, beans, peas, and soya. Indeed, not far from the rice fields of Ipatagwa is the maize growing farmlands near Ilaji in Uswahilini. Maize is grown by irrigation and from rain in season.
Nimejipanga Equity ikinipatia mtaji niweze kulima zaidi hata ya eka 5. Natarajia kuuza soko la Inyala. Natarajia kuwauzia watu wa aina mbalimbali, kwa mfano Kenya, Malawi wanakuja kuchukua zao letu la mahindi.
Kweli kuna changamoto kubwa ambazo huwa zinatukabili sisi kama wakulima wa kilimo cha mahindi. Changamoto ya kwanza ambayo ndio kubwa ni ukosefu wa mtaji. Kwa sababu tunashindwa kuzalisha mazao mengi kwa sababu hatuna mtaji ambao utatuwezesha kuweza kununua pembejeo za kilimo kwa wakati, hususan katika upande wa madawa na upande wa mbolea. Alikadhalika hata mbegu bora ambazo tunaamini kabisa Equity Benki wao wakiweza kutuwezesha, tunaamini tunaweza tukatatua hizo changamoto kwa wakati.
With a 200 million people market in the region across the middle of Africa, trade in agriculture will grow, supported by Equity's Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan.
The strategy we have adopted is the African Recovery and Resilience Plan. We have leveraged on the East African Community Common Market and leveraged on the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's a regional plan, it's a continental plan, because we have realized the only thing that can support us to succeed is the market. The larger the market, the better.
Agriculture industry players in Tanzania and across the East African Community member states are encouraged to tap on the 700 billion Kenya shillings plan to feed the region. Opportunities abound in the Democratic Republic of Congo-DRC. The country is endowed with arable lands, rich mineral deposits, and an insatiable market for goods and services required by the almost 100 million population. In April 2021, President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya and President Felix Tshisekedi of the DRC signed a bilateral agreement that would see greater collaboration between the two countries. The agreement culminated in a 15-day trade mission to the DRC organized by the Kenya and DRC governments and facilitated by Equity Group.
I believe it is a moment of rare regional and continental pride as we witness our local enterprises coming together in the spirit of one Africa, one people.
And the theme, unlocking trade, tourism and investment opportunities in DRC and the Great Lakes region, the trade mission attracted more than 300 Kenyan investors, entrepreneurs and small and medium enterprises SMEs. The delegates first jetted into Kinshasa, a metropolis that is home to more than 16 million people. They were led by Kenya's Trade Cabinet Secretary Betty Maina, Equity Group Managing Director and CEO Dr. James Mwangi, Equity Group Chairman Professor Isaac Masharia, and the host, Equity BCDC Managing Director Celesta Mukeba.
We are very, very entrepreneurial. We seek new opportunities, and I've actually met Kenyans who have been in this market doing business for a while already. So this is, I think, for me, a great opportunity, and we present the opportunity in Congo as an opportunity for Kenyans to come and set up here.
The Kenyan entrepreneurs, captains of industry, and government agencies representatives were joined in the business forums, exhibitions, panel sessions, and site visits by more than 2,000 Congolese counterparts who were also keen to forge business partnerships.
J'ai la ferme conviction que la mission commerciale RDC-Kenya visant à rapprocher nos deux pays est de nature à renforcer nos relations en matière d'échanges commerciaux transfrontaliers facilités à ce jour par la zone de libre-échange continentale.
It's not every other time you get such opportunities where people open doors, actually walk in, see the opportunities, come back home and invite you to go and, see what is available for you to do. And you can see this is a very big team. We have farmers here, we have engineers here, we have architects here, we have doctors here. It's a whole team. Just come and look for a niche for yourself, deliver on that, partner with the people on the ground, and you're good to go. It's a very good thing that Equity are involved in this, and I must say congratulations for holding our hands and bringing us. We have a time now to sit back and say these are the opportunities that we had, and this is what we did.
Giving a comprehensive prospectus of opportunities in the DRC, Dr. Mwangi said the trade mission was advised by the need for business decisions to be made guided by facts on the ground.
Today we started the Kenya-DRC trade mission. We brought 253 Kenyan entrepreneurs. They are being hosted by over 2,000 Congolese business people. And the objective is to get Kenyan entrepreneurs to see the opportunity in DRC. The second one is to forge partnerships and collaboration with entrepreneurs of DRC so that we promote joint ventures.
Dr. Mwangi put in perspective the economic situation in the DRC, illustrating that the vast country is where Kenya was when only 6% of the population was banked.
DRC, from the financial sector, is where Kenya was in the early 90s. We're talking about 6% of the population being banked, 94% excluded. So this is a market we can grow very rapidly, much faster than we grew in Kenya, where we moved from number 66 to become number 1 largest bank in Kenya.
What Equity has done, I think, is one of a first, because Equity has been able to demystify the whole trade across DRC.
Kenya's Trade Chief Administrative Secretary Lawrence Karanja lauded Equity for partnering with the DRC and Kenyan governments for what he termed as part of a greater vision of the Africa Free Trade Area.
Kenya is keen to enhance trade relations through COMESA, tripartite, and African Free Continental Trade Area. And as I've said, we are pleased to welcome DRC into the East African community, because by so doing, we'll be having a market of more than 200 million people within the East African region. That is a market, and I will be asking the people of DRC and the people of Kenya to look at that opportunity which is coming.
We want more of this because it's bringing like-minded people together. What is also the missing link is normally money. How do you de-risk an opportunity? Working with equity as a partner, we're able to understand off-takers, we're able to de-risk by making sure that the money is available, we're bringing like-minded people together. Equity is a lubricant in all of this. And by facilitating and going at different government levels, we're removing a lot of wrinkles and allowing us to do business. Just love it.
Day-long discussions in sessions in Kinshasa, Lubumbashi, Goma and Bujimai addressed various topics with strong panels of experts analyzing their respective sectors. An exhibition site was annexed to the plenary where traders from both countries also had an opportunity to showcase their products and services. The delegates had an opportunity to network with their Congolese counterparts in matchmaking sessions and business site visits in all 4 cities. Equity BCDC MD Mukeba was at hand to discuss how the entrepreneurs can partner with the bank.
DRC is a country of opportunity in the sense that the number of population, we are talking about 100 million people, and it's growing at least 3% per annum. So that shows the headroom in terms of growth, especially when we speak about 6% only the banking penetration. So 94% is the potential of growth.
It is refreshing to see that Africans are going to Africa, and we call them same as we call someone else investor. It is a very good thing. I love the mission.
Participants had a chance to interact and appreciate firsthand the opportunities that exist in trade, manufacturing, agriculture, mining, tourism, IT, among other sectors.
This mission is very good because it is also an opportunity for people of Africa to be together for that good business that we need to do between Africas. Equity Bank is now like a medium, like between us in our invest.
Kenya's ambassador to the DRC, George Masafu, expressed his satisfaction with the mission.
Kenyan businessmen are not coming here to do business by themselves. They're coming to partner with Congolese partners here. So the bank is also going to finance the Congolese businessmen, just as they're going to finance the Kenyan businessmen. And we believe that with strong trade ties, the relationships between our 2 countries are going to be very strong.
Speaking at the Lubumbashi leg of the mission, Deputy Governor of Katanga, Jean-Claude Kamfwa, thanked Equity BCDC for the initiative to bring the Kenyans.
Je tiens donc à saluer l'implication du groupe Equity Bank et Equity BCDC dans l'organisation de cette rencontre qui, reconnaissons-le, revêt toute son importance comme étape cruciale devant permettre l'éclosion d'initiatives régionales, favoriser les synergies et la création de valeur pour nos 2 pays et pour notre belle province.
Everything in Congo is an opportunity, if I have to say so. Everything is an opportunity. There's no field in this country you can tap in and not get. You think of education, you think of medicine, you think of all the field are in need in DRC.
Equity Group Chief Commercial Officer Polycarp Igade said the mission has opened doors for Congolese entrepreneurs to visit.
Yeah, a very good morning to all of us, and shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you this morning and bless you even as we gather together in this auditorium. We want to sincerely thank you for the gift of life and for the gift of a new day. We are here because you have taken care of us. Lord, as we meet together with our guests from the US and our people from Kenya, we pray that, Lord, you bless this meeting and let your hand be upon us, even as we us and all those who will participate. We pray that you bless them. We thank you and we bless you. For this we pray in Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen. Back to you, Erastus.
Thank you so much, Bishop. At this point again is once to welcome us for this one-day, full-day session, and we're happy to have you. We're happy to have the delegates from the US who have come to Kenya. We're also happy to have the customers who have come to interact with the US investors in our midst. We're also happy to have the various stakeholders, government officials, and various representatives who are partners with the bank. And we're also happy to have the staff with us who are going to interact with us and ensure that we also have a good session. So the purpose of today's session or today's program is to help us interact, encourage trade between the US and Kenya, and facilitated by the bank, because we believe that we should be able to have a close interaction between the bank, between our customers, between different investors, and to facilitate trade between the two countries. And that is why we are here this morning, and we have been having this mission happening in Tanzania and Zanzibar, and today we have the guests here in Kenya for the whole week. So I want to invite on stage our group director in charge of corporate, Rafael Onyango, to come and introduce to us the various delegates who have come to interact with the Kenyan investors. So Rafael, if you may come and get to notify us who is in the room. Let's appreciate him as come.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. To our distinguished guests, delegates from the US, representatives from government, the customers from Equity Bank Kenya, welcome again once more to this session. I'll take the opportunity to introduce our delegates. As you are aware, this is the US Tanzania-Kenya Trade Mission. So we spent the whole of last week in Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar, meeting different stakeholders, staff, government, and members of the private sector. And we are gathered today also this week to have the same interaction with the delegates on the Kenya side. So if we can, I will call the delegates in no particular order. Humphrey, if they can project. Well, let me just start from my right, Dr. Ethel. If you could kindly introduce yourself. Sorry? Yes, please. Yes, so there's Dr. Ethel and Dr. Oni.
Good morning. Caro, in business, you have to understand the language. Language matters when you interact with business people. Good morning. My name is Dr. Uni.
My name is Dr. F.L. Abe.
And we are from Minnesota. We brought to you what we do in the 10,000 lakes. Minnesota is known for 10,000 lakes. And we want to see if we can build some of the lakes here too. But that's not what we're here for this morning. It will be different times. Well, we do have a business, and we are representing a business called Restoration for All. And we are here to discuss, or just to give you a brief of what we do.
REFA is concerned with the wellness of people in the communities, organizations, and society at large. You know, the Equity Bank is working hard to see how businesses could recover and become resilient. We are interested in the people that build businesses and how they could also recover and become resilient after the COVID event and the current war in Ukraine. The economy has been impacted. The way we live, the way we do business, the way we interact has changed. And people were impacted by the pandemic and the current war. So our question is, how are the people doing? Are they well? You know, wellness is not just about interventions like you call the wellness programs, employee-assisted programs. That is not all. Wellness is a culture. It is something that we should learn to work with. Yesterday, I felt sick, very sick. I was wondering, how did that happen? And that was because I did not practice some of my wellness activities. While we were in Tanzania and Zanzibar, I found myself so sick that, people that made my hair were wondering whether I was going to fall down. And what do? I have a culture that's taught my body to behave in a way, to think, to act, to eat, to speak well. And here today, the bank is focusing seriously on the economic recovery. We are all for it. But we want to ask the bank and every business here and the government institutions, how well are your people? So REFA provides interventions using cultural activities, using orthodox and scientific methods to see how we can get the people that make the businesses to recover and be resilient.
Yes. And the wellness is in 8 dimensions, which include your spiritual wellness, your financial wellness, and your business wellness. And many people are here. If you have kids in school, we also work with schools, because teachers also need to be well, and the students need to be well. During the pandemic in Minnesota, we were consulting with different educational systems because kids were really, really sick, and they were ending up in psychiatric wards, emergency ward, but restoration restored them back to the community instead of being hospitalized. So if you have any healthcare system here, we would like to talk to you as to how we can help you to really deal with this pandemic. Post-pandemic is important. We know it's all over. We think it's so. But we still need to be very proactive. And that is why we are here this morning. I would like to interact with all of you. Education, healthcare system, housing system, any areas that require human nature and human contact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ethel and Dr. Eni. Next, I will invite friend William. William, kindly.
Well, after that impassioned speech, that is a tough act to follow, I think. But I'm here because I've been in the energy business, largely renewables, but not exclusively, for the last 30 years. And I have worked all around the world, Africa included, and there is no easy answer to the energy situations that the world faces. There's many people without energy, and there's many people that are using less efficient, too expensive, and environmentally unsound energy sources. And I think I have truly seen like-minded people on this trip and in Equity Bank. And I am very impressed with the family feeling that I've had on this trip, and I think it's quite sincere. And this isn't just podium talk. I've run into people here, bank employees and my fellow traveling family from Minnesota, and we watch out for each other. And I think that's the way the world should be. And I think equity has that history. It started in social services, and in your energy and environmental work, the social aspect is still very much there, as it is with my work. So I am here on this trip, and I am most certainly here in Nairobi to find out more about the energy system, independent power production, renewables, non-renewables in this country. Because I know that Kenya has a mature and growing power system and power sector, and I think you folks are the ones to tell me about it. So whether and how I fit in, I think that will be determined in the coming days, because I have to learn first, and people have to learn what I'm about. There's no magic solution in the energy world, but I think we will be able to build projects together and help each other along. So with that, I have been warmly welcomed these last 10 days or so, and I feel so this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Next, kindly, Veronica.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Veronica Rotich. I am originally from Kericho, but I reside in Minnesota right now. We've come here because we all are passionate about something, and I'm passionate about women's health, specifically breast cancer amongst women. We are looking at the woman that's in the rural areas back in my village. How often do they get to go to the hospital to get checked just for their breast or their pap smear? Most of them don't because they don't have access. Back in Minneapolis, I work with African-born women to give them access to health care. So that's something that I want to bring back to here. We're working together with companies like Synergy, Medtronics, Ecolabs to bring mobile clinics, mobile mammogram clinics to the different villages back in different counties. So anybody that's with healthcare, giving healthcare access, please, we can reach out and talk. We're ready to work together and bring live the mobile clinics.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Ahmed, kindly.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm not a doctor, by the way. I think just to make a correction, I'm a diplomat. I'm a former foreign minister, just recent foreign minister of Somalia. I'm also a former ambassador of Somalia to the United States. Today I have two hats. One is what I just mentioned. The other one is I'm part of the U.S. trade mission. Yeah, I didn't join you on your leg to Tanzania, but I'm glad I'm here today. Today I'm representing, well, for the Somalis, we're everywhere. A famous philosopher by the name of Chantal Mouffe, when he said, you could have multiple identities in modern societies. She called it discovered identity and chosen identity. So you have no choice but to be a Somali. You are born to Somalia, to be an African, to look the way I look. But you could also choose your identity. And many Somalis have become Americanists, they have become Minnesotans, they have become Canadians, they have become Swedish, they have become as part of the international community. So Somalis are big in Minnesota. In the public arena, we have representatives to the Congress. We have representatives at the different levels in Minnesota. My wife, who have been very happy to be as part of this mission, but couldn't make it, has founded a multi-million, and she's Somalia. She left Somalia as a young girl. She has founded something called Global Language Connection, and I'm part of this mission representing her. Global Language Connection is a network of experienced language professionals able to provide support in 200 languages, and has also extensive experience providing language services to numerous industries, and particular specialties in servicing healthcare providers and educational institutions. It also provides in-person interpretation in our local areas, that is in Minnesota. And GLC leverages an extensive network of language professionals to provide video, remote, over the phone, and telephonic relay interpretation services. We also provide cultural relevant services in the United States, and therefore we are keen to establishing that connection. And Kenya is, without exaggeration, a pride of Africa. So it's good to make that linkage, that connection between Kenya, Somalia, the Somali communities all over the world, including those from the United States that I'm representing. By the way, the future is for Africa. I was the delegation, I represented my country, Somalia, when I was a foreign minister, in the signing of the African Continental Trade Union, trade agreement in Rwanda in 2019. So we look forward, and I'm actually inspired by the mission and the vision of the Equity Bank and its leadership. I happened to attend the webinar that your CEO, or the CEO of Equity, Mr. James Mwangi, have made to the Minnesotan business community, which was moderated by a good friend, an American who is loved by the new communities in the United States, including Somalis, by the name of Mark Ruji. So the vision and the mission of Equity is relevant for Somalians, relevant for the African community in the diaspora. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm glad to be among you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Next, allow me to invite Jennifer.
Good morning. Habari zenu. My name is Jennifer Kuria, and I'm a Kenyan. I moved to the US about 20 years ago. I'm here to talk about housing, because when I moved to US, I had built my house here, but I realized finding affordable housing as a new immigrant in US was really hard to find. So I found my way working with the city government to provide affordable housing, because I believe housing is a basic need, and everybody should be able to afford or live in a decent house. As we say in Kikuyu, wega umaga na mushie. That means if you have stable housing, then at least you'll be able to raise your kids and they will thrive or be able to live in a good society. So I'd like to talk to representatives from the cities, government, and we see how we can be able to provide affordable housing for all. Thank you.
Yes, and last but not least, the leader of the delegation, Mr. Basil Karibu. And I think, sorry, just before Basil comes up, there was one of the delegates called Sam, who's in tourism and who covered the Tanzania leg but wasn't able to make it for the Kenya leg of this mission. I'm sure you will introduce him in absentia.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Basil.
Why don't we put our hands together for the Grooms and for Equity Group for transforming the economic landscape of our state, landscape of Kenya and Africa, United States of America. My name is Basil Ajo. I was born and raised in the Central African nation of the Cameroon. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Minnesota Africans United. Minnesota Africans United is an umbrella organization that brings together all the African diaspora business community united in Minnesota to transform the economic landscape of the United States and looking back at the continent. When we started to think about what is it that the African diaspora can actually do for the continent, there was a first Kenyan who stood up, Nalima Sitate, a Kenyan, and took the battle of command to become the first founding board members of board chair lady of Minnesota Africans United. As we started talking and moving forward, a Kenyan stood up again and said, there is no economic transformation. There is no way we can advance two-way trade, advance the economy, build entrepreneurship, if we don't talk about trade. As you founded this, what we call today our Foreign Affairs Committee. I'm so proud of what Kenyans have brought to our community in Minnesota. And when we wanted to start to talk about how do we begin to do trade back here in the continent, we reached out to a Minister of Trade here in Minnesota and said, will you want to be with us at this webinar? She said, yeah, of course. Our doors are open for trade and investment. And then just few days, just 2 days after there were some circumstances beyond her control, and she sent some words of regret. But with a loving heart, giving us our support and our kindness, and then another Kenyan just rose up and says the future of Kenya is in the heart of the Kenyan diaspora. I am going to stand up and represent our minister. The future of Kenya is not in the hands of the minister, it's in the hands of us. Here in Minnesota, it's in the hands of the United States of America, and it's in the hands of equity. Hey, Basil, but I want to do this for one reason. We just want to have an opportunity to put $500, just $500 in Equity Bank to invest for our own future. Can you make that happen? Please. And I sent an email to Equity. I said, look, this is what the Kenyans are actually talking about the continent, talking about the bank, talking about the investment. Will you be able to create that pathway? The answer was, of course, we have our credit cards. We have a diaspora component. Anything you want to get about equity, it is not, we are not looking for you to come and give us money. We are looking at how how do we set up, how do we work in a way that create opportunities, create value, social enterprise? We're here to really guide you. Please come. And when we send out one email and say, who would like to go to Kenya? All the Kenyan people put up their hands and say, hey, I want to be the first to go back home. I want to be the first person to greet Mr. Raphael's hand and talk to Priya and Irene, Albert and Andrew, John, and all the phenomenal people that actually helped us to travel all along the way to Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar, and we're here today. My heart is really burning with joy, with happiness, excitement for the special treatment. You can feel me moving from table to table with my eyes, with my heart, with my hands, greeting each and every one of you to say what equity does works. Doesn't only work with words, work with action. We came with one of our members. He was so interested in tourism. And when we arrived in Zanzibar, he got some good deals. 2 good deals. He was so excited. Oh my God, if I don't sign this agreement. Oh my God, if I don't open a bank account. Oh my God, if I don't create this job. Trade missions work. Thank you so much, Equity, for providing us this phenomenal opportunity. Staff members of Equity and all the bank members and the business community members, you are rock stars. You were born to lead. You were raised to lead. And you are also raised to serve. Again, this is my time to sit down. Thank you so much, all the members, distinguished members of the Minnesota community, US community, for the time you have taken away from your homes and loved ones just because you want to add value to the continent, to create jobs and touch the life of each and every one of our children. I know your heart, your businesses, opportunities are here. May you all be touched. Thank you so much, Mr. Raphael. You've always been there for us. And may God bless all of you.
Thanks, Basil, for that rousing speech. I will now hand over the program. Humphrey? Okay, yes. And thank you all, and please feel welcome.
Thank you. I think we can give a better hand to that team from the US. I think once again is to remind us that this is the US trade mission to Kenya and Tanzania, and we are now having the Kenyan leg. And for those of us who are also watching us online, and just to update you that we are about unlocking opportunities, trade and investment opportunities in East Africa. So we have the delegation from the US, and then we have our Kenyan investors and business people in the room and other stakeholders. So at this point, I want to invite the representative from the US Embassy to come and make some remarks. Then after that, we shall continue with the rest part of the program. Yes, you're most welcome, sir.
Hi, my name is Josh Startup. I'm the Deputy Commercial Counselor at the U.S. Embassy for the U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Commercial Service. It's great to be here with you all today. I went to college in Minnesota, so it's always nice to connect with Minnesotans again. And my parents lived in Minnesota for 15 years, so it's got a special place in my heart. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the Commerce Department's overview of Kenya as a potential market for U.S. companies. As you know, Kenya is the hub for many U.S. multinationals in East Africa. It's got a great economy. It's the 3rd largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa, with 52 million people and 87% English-speaking population. Has a GDP of 108 billion in 2021. With an average growth rate of 5% year over year. It's the financial, commercial, logistical, and ICT hub for East Africa. It's the 3rd leading innovation hub in sub-Saharan Africa by the World Intellectual Property Organization. It's also amongst the 10 fastest growing economies in Africa. It's rapidly urbanizing and growing middle class with a disposable income, which makes it very attractive for U.S. investors. It has improved business environment trends, including government investments in various sectors, including infrastructure, energy, and healthcare. It's got a lot of political support for the startup ecosystem and innovation. It has a highly skilled labor force and an English-speaking population, which makes it very easy for U.S. companies to tap into the workforce here. It has a high level of ICT awareness across the population, youth, and SMEs. And as I'm sure you've heard, it's the Silicon Savannah of Africa, or Silicon Safari, as I hear it's now being called. It's a regional leader in connectivity, infrastructure, and internet penetration, with approximately 87% of the population having an internet subscription. Its decentralized government is progressing with 46 counties and developing PPP's engagement both at the national and the local level. Of course, there are always concerns, especially from the US side, over transparency and corruption. From the Commerce Department perspective, we have 5 leading sectors that we're really focusing on, including ICT technology, healthcare technologies, energy and renewable storage and distribution, infrastructure, ports, roads, and airports, and agribusiness. In the ITC space, you may be aware that the government recently released its digital master plan for the next decade. It calls for infrastructure development, a lot more new fiber, and more data centers. It's rolling out the digital government platform, connecting national and city, county governments and parastatals. It's a great environment for digital businesses, driving the digital economy agenda. It's got a lot of new startups, and it's working on raising the digital skills level for the entire population. It sees the ICT sector as an enabler of the Big Four, which I understand is probably going to continue under President Ruto. We see a lot of opportunities for U.S. companies in the cybersecurity space. The government has a Security and Operations Center, National Operations Center, and a lot of opportunities in the banking, and of course the fintech sector continues to boom here, really. It's got capacity building and partnerships for better technical and service delivery, software testing, re-engineering for fit, tech sandboxes, and a lot of opportunity for skills transfer. Key policies driving the sector are the National ICT and National Broadband Policy, the Digital Economy Blueprint, and the Vision 2030 for the Kanza Technolopolis and Smart City. I'll get that right one day. Kanza, you may know, is the first smart city in the East Africa and Central African region. And we see opportunities for data centers, R&D development, hospitals, e-commerce, fulfillment hubs, education facilities, and smart solutions for energy, transport, and utilities, and many more. In the energy sector, Kenya has one of the most developed power sectors in sub-Saharan Africa. Access to electricity nationally stands at about 75%, with 100% urban access and rural access at about 64%. IPPs, independent power producers, account for 36% of the energy generated within Kenya, and the Kenyan government accounting for 70%, providing the rest. Kenya, as you probably know, boasts abundant renewable energy resources, especially in geothermal, wind, and solar, and is really a world leader in those areas. Kenya's installed capacity stands at approximately 2,990 megawatts, with over 80% coming from green and clean sources. That's, again, over 80%, which is really phenomenal. Geothermal currently accounts for 40% of energy generated, while wind accounts for 16%, and solar is currently less than 1%. Some of the challenges we see in the sector are aging distribution infrastructure, high technical and commercial losses, sometimes opaque procurement processes and disputes, and PPA inconsistencies. We do see a lot of opportunity for U.S. companies in off-grid energy solutions and trying to get the power out and the energy out to those less served and rural areas. We also see many opportunities in the agribusiness sector. The government of Kenya has allocated $517 million in FY 2021-2022 in the national budget for the agricultural sector. The GOK is supporting small-scale irrigation projects, which of course is very key given the drought. It's promoting the use of updated farming techniques for smallholder farming, and it has established a public-private partnership directorate that is open to reviewing privately initiated PPPs within the sector. So we see opportunities for U.S. companies in the supply of modern irrigation technology, water saving and irrigation management solutions, particularly for the drought-stricken areas in the north, and consultation on water resource management and water harvesting technology. Additionally, there's opportunity in the cold chain area in Kenya, including pre-cooling, refrigerated storage, and refrigerated transport. Other sectors perhaps of interest to the group is education. Kenya has more than 16,000 students studying abroad. There's a thriving digital space in Kenya, which offers an opportunity for content creation to attract Kenyan students to the U.S. Virtual school tours, student life, and educational benefits are some of the aspects U.S. educational institutions should focus on in Kenya. And Kenyan institutions of higher learning are open to partnerships with international colleges, universities, and other institutions around the world. Tourism, of course, is a great industry in Kenya. In 2020, with COVID, still 5,556 Kenyans traveled to the U.S., which was a big drop of 67% from 2019, the pre-COVID levels. However, in 2022, Kenya's total travel increased by 86.5%. And I know visas are a big issue with Kenyans, and that's a top issue of Ambassador Whitman, and she's working diligently, as are the entire embassy, to get those numbers down, and I understand wait times are greatly reduced. So please bear with us as you apply for visas, and apply early is the best advice we can really give you on that front. I touched a little bit on healthcare, but Kenya's key focus on the universal healthcare coverage, access, quality, and affordability really offers a lot of opportunities for investment in companies looking to trade and do business in Kenya. It has a high disease burden in infectious diseases and non-communicable diseases. And the GOK, of course, has a big focus on cancer treatment, and a lot of U.S. companies are looking to get involved in assisting Kenya as it battles cancer. Medical tourism, Kenya is becoming a hub for medical tourism as neighboring countries are looking to send people to Kenya as Kenya continues to increase its services and become an attractive destination for those in the region seeking a higher level of care. There's opportunities in telemedicine and linking healthcare service providers to NHIF and mapping the beneficiaries and facilities in the national healthcare system. And of course, Kenya's banking system is also an attractive place. Speaking in a bank, I should say that, of course. The banking sector overall is relatively well capitalized. Kenya is a hub for fintech activity in the region, and Nairobi is one of Africa's most important fintech centers. And just as a startup hub, as I mentioned before, Kenya offers tons of opportunities. I think has the highest percent of VC capital per GDP basis in Africa, and I think it's number 2 overall, just behind Nigeria in VC funds for startups. Technological innovation is strong compared to neighboring peers, and especially in the mobile money segment. And regulation in all sectors of the domestic and financial sector is improving, and there's a good number of well-organized regulatory bodies present in Kenya to help facilitate those sorts of transactions. Markets or market challenges that the Commerce Department sees here are sort of standard for many parts of the world: contract scarcity, non-payment and delays, and lack of transparency. Corruption is always an issue in Kenya, but we are optimistic that those numbers are going to start to turn around. There's risks in government procurement cycles, and the government, of course, has some restraints fiscally, but we're optimistic that through PPPs and other mechanisms that we can find ways forward for U.S. businesses to engage in Kenya. So maybe I'll leave it there with that, but happy to answer a question or two or turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
Let's appreciate Joshua Startup with another clap. Our senior commercial officer from the US Embassy. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's clear there are opportunities for trade and investment between the two countries. And they say that if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? So before I bring the next speaker on stage to come and give us a plan, because Equity has a plan. When COVID struck, we did a lot of work to support, but then as a bank we decided, can we do more after COVID or post-COVID? And so there's a very nice plan that the bank has, and I would want us to pay keen attention as we get to know how is it designed, how will it be executed, what are the outcomes. And I want to bring on stage the commercial director of Kenya, Equity Bank, that is Humphrey Muturi, to come and take us through the Africa Resilience and Recovery Plan post-COVID by Equity Group. Let's welcome on stage Humphrey Muturi.
Thank you very much, Erastus, and a welcome once again to everyone that is here today. We are delighted to have very many of you here with us. But before I get into the plan, I want to give opportunity for you to ask all those difficult questions that you have for Joshua, that you have wanted to ask the American Embassy. As you heard, he's the Deputy Commercial Attaché. And I want to take full advantage of his presence here. I know that he has an engagement that he has to participate in. But just to make sure we don't lose the opportunity now that he's here with us, I will invite Joshua to be around here, and I'll give him the microphone, and I'll give you opportunity to ask any questions that you have to Joshua and your perspective with dealings with America. At least he will give you the government perspective of the views that he thought he has with regards to that subject. So any questions we have for Joshua before we miss the opportunity? I'm looking with for a show of hands. Any questions? All right, Joshua, I think you'll be needed up here, so please welcome. There's a microphone right here for you. And if we could get another mic to go to William. Do you have an extra microphone for William, please?
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to find out if there are also folks from Prosper and or Power Africa here that we can connect with.
I can connect you to them. Yes, they're not present here today.
No. But they are here based in Nairobi then.
Prosper is based in South Africa, I believe, but we have people in USAID who I can connect you with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely useful in finding out what kind of programs we can use if we're working synergistically with partners here in Kenya and elsewhere.
Yeah, I can certainly facilitate that discussion, those contexts.
Also, at least from my perspective, any of the statistics you had, if that's from a Power Africa fact sheet or anything else, would like to try and get a hold of that.
Sure, I'll get your contact information.
But anyway, I will turn it over to others who may have questions as well.
Any other questions, or we're satisfied with that? All right, let's appreciate Joshua. Thank you very much once again. All right, once again, thank you and welcome to this event. We've been looking forward to this, where we as a bank work together towards connecting businesses, connecting people of like minds so that they can leverage on opportunities that are there in the region as well as globally. When COVID struck in 2019, late 2019, beginning 2020, immediately the pharmaceutical companies, the likes of Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and many others, went into significant research to find an antidote for this pandemic that had struck the world. As a result of that, they came up with a vaccine, and that has been provided to potentially every one of us here in this room, and is also available across the world. But what happened? COVID had devastating impact not only to human health, but the economic activity across the world. And we immediately recognized here within Equity Bank that there had to be a plan to address this serious pandemic that transcended not only human health, but economic prosperity of the world. Our group CEO, Dr. James Mwangi, commissioned a piece of work towards addressing this particular issue, and we have now officially rolled out the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan. I want to share with you details around the plan, which tells you why you are very critical in this conversation today, you as the potential investors from the US, but also you as our customers and prospect customers who are here with us in this room. And so if we put back the screen, and I'll share with you details around this plan. You can see this plan is basically focused on implementing, it's an implementation plan to capacitate, connect, coordinate, and finance Africa value chains to transform Africa's wealth. And why is this important? We immediately recognized that global value chains were disrupted. The movement of goods and services was interrupted. Supply of products which we had assumed would be easily imported became challenged. The seas were closed, the airways were closed, and hence we had a concentration risk that we were not previously aware of. But then when we look at Africa as a continent, we see that a lot of raw material, a lot of wealth is actually available here in Africa. But we fail to access those critical resources because of potentially what has been a blockage in our mindset, failing to exploit and harness these opportunities that are there. What are some of those resources? Natural resources. A lot of agricultural arable land is available today. A lot of the minerals that are available in the world get exported from where? Africa. And so it was our time, it is our time now to make sure that we are taking advantage of the productivity gains that exists in this superior position that we have. We have seen growth in consumption globally. We also recognize that it's important to catalyze intra-continental trade such that when value chains are disrupted, when supply chains are interrupted, you can imagine today we are held at ransom. Why? Because wheat has primarily come from which countries? Ukraine and Russia. And suddenly there is a shortage of wheat in the world, whilst we boast of rich arable land. It is our time now to really take advantage of our rich arable land, the growing demographics, the growing consumerism, and to make sure that these value chains are connected within Africa. We also recognize that we cannot do this alone. We need partners to catalyze this. And so that's why we are very glad and privileged to have potential investors from America. And I might also mention that this is a preamble. This is only the beginning. I'm told that somewhere around about February, we may have a much larger delegation that will be coming to us. So this gives us an opportunity to really think and prepare ourselves for that. So let's no longer see ourselves as being victims, but let's look at the privileged position that we have as a country and ensure that we can catalyze the growth opportunities that exist in Africa. So let me share with you details around the plan. The plan is really built around ensuring businesses recover. When a patient is sick, what do you need to do? Your first thing is to ensure that they recover. So you immediately put them into ICU, HDU, into a ward, whatever is necessary for them to recover. What did we do as Equity Bank? We recently won an award, you may or may not know, for being the most innovative bank with regards to economic recovery and support for businesses that were affected by COVID. Why? Is it just because it's an award that you can say, oh, Equity Bank is doing this and that? When the pandemic hit, businesses were shut down. And so we quickly rushed to our customers and had an engagement with them. And we asked them, what is required? How are you impacted? The first thing that we did is to understand their cash flows. And we gave them moratoriums or capital repayment holidays during this period. It extended all the way from 6 months, depending on the nature of impact that was on their business, to 1 year, 2 years, up to 3 years, because we know sometimes it does take that length of time for a business to recover. It is usually very easy to get sick, but sometimes recovery can take a while. And so we give them capital repayment holidays in line with their cash flows. Otherwise, if we as an institution continued to demand their monthly, quarterly, half-yearly installments, what would basically happen? The businesses don't have the cash flow, so they would not be able to survive. So this is one of the things that we did. In addition to that, there are very many other interventions which I will describe even during this presentation. But I also want to say that we are a twin engine business. Equity Group Holdings is a twin engine organization. We have a commercial franchise which is responsible for addressing the financial needs of our customers, empowering them, giving them credit facilities, payment facilities, collection capabilities, all that pertains to banking. But beyond that, we also have what we call Equity Group Foundation, which does various things, and I do see representatives from the foundation, and I'll be giving them opportunity. But what is one of those interventions that we did with regards to COVID? We provided them education. We provided them an opportunity to learn how to be resilient over and above recovery. So recovery was step one, but for a business to scale, they need the necessary education for them to remain resilient into the future. We did not just do those two things, but we have actually set aside funding in terms of liquid cash that is available to support businesses. When an economy falters, when major catastrophic economic events happen, the natural inclination for financial institutions is to hold back. We rather went the other way around, 180 degrees, and we said we are going to inject capital to support businesses to actually recover and remain resilient. We have a fund in excess of $7 billion. $7 billion, which equates to about 2% of the GDP of the East and Central Africa region, towards supporting business. We have the privilege, and we've been blessed by Almighty God to be a big financial institution, well loved by our customers, who continue to place their deposits with us because of the way that we have helped transform their lives. And so we have set aside funding for businesses that want to be able to scale up in and post-COVID. Let me quickly take you through some of the critical pillars or areas of interest that we have as a financial institution to support these businesses. Recognizing the rich arable land, the mineral wealth that we have in Africa, we identified that food and agriculture is a critical resource that must be addressed. If the human being does not eat or drink, then they will basically cease to exist. Today, in this market, and I believe in many other geographies, we only have 3% of the banking sector loan book or funding channeled towards agriculture. Yet we know that agriculture is a key contributor to the GDP of many African countries. And so we took a bold step and said, we are going to work together with our farmers towards supporting and scaling them. That commitment is a bold commitment that we have made, saying no longer shall it be 3%, at least not within Equity Bank. We must scale it up and pump in up to 30% of our loan portfolio to go towards farmers, people in the agriculture space, people who are in the extractive space. Extractive space means resources which are being excavated and exploited from the earth. And so we are saying we're going to work with these businesses so that they can be properly funded. In the room today, we have got some specialists in this area. I want to give first opportunity to George Masharia to come up and tell us how he is participating and supporting businesses in agriculture to basically scale up from the current 3% all the way to 30%. George, please tell us how we actualize this plan.
Thank you very much, Humphrey, and good morning, everyone. My name is George Macharia. I take care of food and agriculture banking from the commercial engine of Equity Group based in Nairobi. Thankful for this opportunity just to highlight a little bit on what we do in terms of supporting agribusinesses. And I think to start with, I can just mention that for us to succeed in financing and supporting food and agricultural businesses, we realize and we recognize that we cannot be able to do it alone. And so what we have done very importantly for us is to first of all try to establish a mechanism of creating partnerships. For us, partnerships is a key driver to make sure that we enhance businesses in agriculture. Partnerships that take a lot of different forms and shapes. We have what we call commercial partnerships. This is where we try to, as much as possible, when we are working with smallholders, when we are working with the outgrowers and farmers, we try as much as possible to link them with the market. whether that market is local or international, so that then when they are producing, they are very clear about where they will offload their produce. One key aspect that we realize as a big challenge in agriculture is where you produce without knowing how you will offload your produce. So that's an area that we do. The next part of partnership is partnerships that bring in capacity building to ensure that the production that the farmers undertake is up to the standards that the market demands for. Why that is important, and I know my colleague probably will mention that at a later stage, is the fact that especially when we are talking about markets, overseas market, we have the global standards that the various destinations of our produce demand for. And for that reason, we try to bring in these capacity building partners to be able to continue to train the farmers. The other aspect that we put into consideration when we are supporting these food and agriculture businesses, because we call it food and agriculture specifically for a reason, to ensure that it is a farm to fork approach. It's a whole value chain based approach where we do not just look at agriculture as just that component of on-farm production, but also making sure that all the parties that are involved in dealing with that movement of the commodity at every stage, you know, whether it is moving it from the farm to the processing pack house or factory, that becomes a value addition. When it gets to that factory, that pack house, the transformation of that commodity into consumable or transportable stage, then again that becomes another part of the value addition. So for us, what I'm trying to emphasize is that even if you are not a farmer, but you are part of the value chain that supports that commodity from one stage to another, that is part of what, or rather that entails what we do in supporting food and agriculture. In terms of the interventions, it's all about taking care of capex and operating expenditures financing. So if you need working capital as a farmer, what we call the operations capital, we are able to support that, and we align it to the cycles of production based on the commodities that each of these players are undertaking or are producing. Most importantly, we also have recognized that it is not all value chains that probably will create immediate value. And therefore, we have both the short, medium, actually I would say not two, it is actually short, medium and long-term funding to ensure that it takes care of all the value chains irrespective of what stage of the commodity does it give the value, or does the value come into being. And then the other thing that's important to note as I conclude, because I know time is also not with us, the other thing that I would want to mention is that we are also very keen to ensure that production is done in accordance to, as I said earlier, to the standards, but now not in terms of the knowledge, it is in terms of what kind of inputs are used by the farmers as they produce. So what we have done is to work very closely with the input providers, be they fertilizer companies, agrochemicals companies, and so on, to ensure that they do not only train the farmers, but they provide what I would call the suitable inputs that ensure that the standards that the commodities will be produced at are actually based on what I would call the global standards or the global agricultural practices standards. So in a nutshell, that's what I would say for now. But importantly to note that we are here, we are open to have discussions with those who are keen or who are in that field of food and agriculture to ensure that we can be able to drive this agenda forward. Thank you very much, Humphrey.
Thank you very much. As I invite Florence, if you can step forward. She's in the foundation and is also specifically focused on food and agriculture. Before I give her the microphone, in the room, is there anyone or how many of you are involved in anything that has got to do with providing food, anything related to food and agriculture, or extraction, mining, etc. in the room? By a show of hands. I see those two. Oh, it's the entire, all right. It means that we need to be relevant to that team of people. That's why we are here today, to again reinforce our commitment towards supporting your business grow. Florence, can you tell us what you are doing within the foundation to make this a reality?
Thank you, Humphrey, and good morning, everyone. My name is Florence Karaoke. I spearhead the Food and Agriculture pillar in the Equity Group Foundation. I just want to challenge those who didn't raise their hands, that if you've had a cup of tea, coffee, or have had something to bite, you are actually in the food and agriculture space. And that's why we call it food and agriculture. I listened to the investors introduce themselves, and I could see the interplay. Because when you speak livelihoods, you're touching on smallholder farmers. When you speak health, there's an interrelation between health and food. When you speak education, when you speak energy, so food and agriculture is everywhere, and it concerns our day-to-day lives. So in the food and agriculture pillar, as Humphrey said, we operate as a twin engine, on a twin engine model. Smallholder farmers are said not to be banked and financially excluded. So what do? We work with the smallholder farmers and capacitate them and make them ready for banking and for the financial services that the bank offers. So we want to commercialize the smallholder farmers because most are still doing subsistence farming for their food. But we want to commercialize them so that they can increase their incomes, they can increase their productivity. And when we speak increased productivity, it means what do they put so that whatever they are growing or whatever they are rearing is able to be commercially viable. So that a financial institution or an investor can look at them differently. Also, we look at post-harvest management because we know a lot of losses occur between whatever the farmer is producing gets to the end consumer. And right now, in the wake of climate change, we also capacitate them so that they are able to do climate-smart agricultural practices so that they are not brought down by the climate shocks that we are seeing day to day. So basically is to train them on financial literacy, to train them on good agricultural practices, to link them to markets, and whatever George has said, we complement so much from the social side. So we are able to train them, we are able to build them so that when they are ready for financial inclusion, then they are not left out. Thank you, Humphrey.
So before you put down the microphone, and thank you very much, you can appreciate Florence. It is easy to say it on the stage here. I want to challenge Florence one step further. Practically, how have you been doing that over the last 1 or 2 weeks? In the areas in the country where there has been drought, there have been many farmers who have been losing their cattle, etc., etc. Can you just explain what you have been doing, what partnerships you've identified, how have we been making this a practical solution to our current need? The reason why we are spending a bit of time on this is because we know food security is absolutely critical. So if we just give it a gloss over, then it becomes irrelevant. But getting into some of the detail is necessary. So Florence.
Yeah, thank you. As George said, we work a lot with partners. So we work a lot with government as a partner, we work a lot with private sector as a partner, and we work a lot with development agents as partners. So in the last 2 weeks that Humphrey is referring to, we are in partnership with government, the State Department of Livestock in Kenya. We are in partnership with the reinsurer, ZEPRI, and ourselves. Many of these partners pick on Equity Bank because of our presence. So in the northeastern part of the country, there is a program that has been launched that is called Drive to help and to support the pastoralists, especially those who have been seeing Kenyan news. You have been seeing that they are losing their livestock because of the lack of rains that has been there. So there is a product that is promoting insurance for livestock. And as a bank, we are supposed to come in and support in the collection of the premium of this insurance and also to support in the banking because there is a subsidy that the government is giving towards those who are able to pay premium for this. In addition to that, we are also working with private sector companies, especially who are trying to promote the feed lotting system, so that when we get into situations like this, we have partners who already have fodder for this livestock, and we can avoid the massive loss that we are seeing among pastoralists when there is no fodder for their animals. So we can bring these linkages such that when the pasture has gone down, we can be able to bring fodder to these livestock keepers, and we can be able to help them such that they do not undergo the kind of losses that they are going because they do not have such kind of support. So we are involved hands-on. When we say good agriculture practice, it means everything from production all the way to market.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So Florence and her team over the last 2 weeks has been spending time in the northeastern region, I think part of the coast region, and Rift Valley, where many pastoralists have been losing cattle because of the current drought. And we pray that the rains will come soon. And it's because of the global climate change that's happening. So, and providing sort of insurance solutions to them so that they are not adversely affected and see the human loss that we have experienced in the past as a result of this. So thank you very much, Florence. So let me move on from agriculture. 30% of our commitment of our portfolio will be executed towards that space. Besides that, we go a step further and we say we want to scale up our manufacturing and logistics capacity. Why is this important? A farmer grows his tea somewhere in Kericho, and I did hear someone who comes from Kericho in the room. They take it to the factory. It is processed, value addition, etc. to a certain extent, and then we export it in a 50 kg bag. It goes to somewhere in Europe or UK or wherever it may go to, and it's put in a nice little sachet, which may be about 50 grams, maybe 20 grams, whatever the size of a tea bag is. And then you put a string on it and attach a nice little ribbon and and you call it morning tea or English tea or whatever you might call it. That same bag of tea that was sold by a farmer somewhere in Kericho for 45 shillings per kilo, when it is processed to that state with a nice little ribbon, that same kilo can retail for as much as 150,000 shillings. So it's moving, and for those of you who do not understand shillings, I'll try and give a dollar equivalent. It moves from 50 cents, dollar-wise, and it goes all the way up to $1,500. The same tea, just packaged and then distributed with a nice little ribbon that gives it a brand. But it's made in Kenya. The farmer received 50 cents for his tea. The guy who sold it and packaged it that way got 1,500. This cannot be right. We have to develop Africa to the stage that the value addition that is necessary, the manufacturing and value addition gets enhanced so that the wealth of Africa can be accelerated. That the farmer is no longer denied of the revenue that is duly owed to him. That the government of Kenya no longer has to collect taxes on 50 cents, but would rather collect taxes on $1,500. Remember, it is the same tea. So we, as an institution, have made a commitment to support value addition. So we are challenging you as business people, as entrepreneurs, that we will get into manufacturing and value addition. You may not take it all the way to the end, but what step can you take further? Do not just sell raw milk. Convert it into pasteurized milk or into yogurt or something else that gives it greater value and puts more money into your wallet. It's unfortunate when I look at some of the countries around us. For example, DRC does a lot of importation of basic food items like chicken, like meat, goat meat, or beef from Europe. That cannot be right. So it is time for us to take the destiny of Africa into our own hands. And we have made a commitment as a bank that we are going to support you in that journey. So that's manufacturing. Let's move on to the next one. And there is a measurable, and probably I'll talk about it in the next slide. Trade and investment. What exactly does that mean? We are catalyzing regional and global trade. We do not want you as a businessman to think only of the environs in which you operate in. We want your business to scale across the country, but also look at opportunities to export into Uganda, into Tanzania, into all the presence market that we are as a financial institution. But I also dare say, and the reason for this engagement we are having today, even to America. There is items that we produce here in Kenya that find their way all the way to America. Let me give you an example and allow me to, I'm debating whether to give this example, David Nyamo. You gave us an example the other day of how a product that is manufacturing somewhere in Ruaraka, a place called Ruaraka, by one of the companies here in Kenya, finds its way to international markets. I believe even the US and the UK and many other countries. And even the price tag is generated here. And you pay the dollar value for it. Do you want me to go? No, let me just not state it. But we do have many, many products that we here in Kenya and here in East Africa, as well as Africa, should be thinking about exporting and providing this rich quality. The best coffee, the best tea in the world is actually grown on our farms here. Why don't we challenge ourselves to continue to provide the best out of our country into the world to support the growth? And why is trade and investment very important? It is because our farmers are going to be capacitated and they will increase in their capacity to grow. They are then going to be adding value to their product. That product may not entirely be consumed here in Kenya, but rather we want it to be exported. So now you see how it builds up. Increase production, enhance value addition, and then there is a ready market. I am made to understand by our experts in food and agriculture that actually many challenges that we face with regards to food security is not the lack of food, but is for it to be available where it is needed at the right time. There is an oversupply of cabbages in a certain part of the country here called Kinangop. But the farmer in Kinangop has no way of getting that same cabbage somewhere to Mombasa where it is critically needed, or next door to the neighboring country. So connecting the value chain and access to market, and many other products continue to find themselves in that place. So as a bank, we are connected, or we are committed to ensure that trade is facilitated that way. Equity Banks Foundation was based and built off the MSMEs, the medium, small, and micro enterprises. We will never forget our roots. Indeed, the GDP of the world is driven by these MSMEs. Continuing to provide support to them and connecting them to the market is absolutely critical. And we have made a commitment to continue supporting these businesses here in Kenya and in the markets that we operate in. And I'll talk to you about the measures that we have put in place. Another space, and I'll be allowing one of my colleagues, Eric Naivasha, to talk about social and environment transformation and what exactly that means. We want to make sure that our businesses continue to be resilient, continue to enhance productivity gains, and we've identified some key opportunities that we can actually support them to scale up. So Eric, is Eric Naivasha here? If you could come up and talk to us about some of the programs that you're running to help in sustainability agenda.
Thank you, Alfred, and good morning. My name is Eric, and one of the things we are doing is, in this plan, is to make sure that as we grow our agriculture, as we grow our industries, as we support our micro, medium, and small enterprises, we are doing that in such a way that we are creating resilience, we are avoiding the catastrophe that is climate change. When Europe industrialized, that is where we went wrong, because we did not embed sustainability measures within industrialization. Africa, as we industrialize, we have an opportunity to do it in a sustainable way, in a way that does not lead into more greenhouses being emitted. The tragedy is Africa emits only 4%, accounts for only 4% of greenhouse gases that are causing climate change. But we are the ones that are bearing the brunt of climate change. A lot of resources globally have been channeled to mitigation efforts. What we are saying in this plan is Africa does not need mitigation, because there needs to be some kind of fairness. What we need is adaptation money. For the last 10 years, 95% of funding in climate change has gone to mitigation. Only 5% has gone to adaptation. Africa needs adaptation, so that a farmer can produce when there is no rain, so that we can create a resilience infrastructure, so that our people can adapt to the already changing circumstances. So what we do a number of things to create resilience. First of all is how we consume energy, and I was there with my friend William talking about this topic, energy access within agriculture, within SME, within industries. We want to implement this plan in such a way that all the value chains that we're supporting are consuming clean energy, for environmental considerations and also for cost considerations. So we are working on the energy mix. And as we were told this morning, 75% of our power now comes from renewables. We need to close that gap of 25%. And that's why we are working with our industries, with our farmers, with our SMEs to transition them to clean energy. The education sector in this country cuts in excess of 10 million trees a year to keep their kitchens running. 10 million trees. And we are saying, who is growing those, number of trees? Mature trees. When you cut a tree, you have done three things. One, you have reduced the ability of that tree to continue providing carbon sinks. Number two, you burn it in the kitchen, you are taking back the same carbon to the atmosphere and the health of the people in those kitchens. And that's why, as Equity has said, we are going to support the education sector to transition all their kitchens from using firewood as a primary source of fuel to more sustainable sources of cooking and heating. And we've already started that program to make sure that one is done and save this country the agony of cutting 10 million trees a year to cook. And that's the education sector alone. We are going to prisons, we are going to tea factories. We talked about the tea factory. Today in Kenya, we are drying green leaf using firewood. Technologies are there to be able to reflect that into more sustainable sources. So energy cuts across agriculture, it cuts across industry. We are doing solar water pumping for farmers, solar drip irrigation to assist farmers to be able to produce even when it's not raining. Then energy efficiency is the other area, focusing on energy efficiency, supporting our industries, our farmers, guys who are doing a value addition, to be more efficient in how they utilize power and increase their production by consuming less power. We're in the area of e-mobility. There are a lot of greenhouse gases also from vehicles, so we are also supporting e-mobility. We are supporting circular economy within the country, making sure that we minimize waste so that we don't have landfills. The landfills can be source of energy. They can be source of other products. And that's how we are trying to deal with methane, which is the biggest polluter in this country. So that's the energy and environment. And we plant a lot of trees. As a bank, we've put ourselves a target of 35 million trees. Today we've planted 21 million trees in 2 years. And not just planting, growing trees, so that we support the government in increasing its forest cover. But then on the other social considerations then, as my colleague Florence said, we do a lot of capacity building across value chains. We have a pillar, I don't know whether Anthony is in the room. Anthony will talk about that, about how we are doing capacity building and other issues in the foundation. But the point on sustainability is to make sure that within the Africa Recovery and Resilient Plan, all the stakeholders in that plan are building their capacity, are building their balance sheet, are building their businesses in a resilient and sustainable way that does not harm the environment. Thank you very much.
Let's appreciate Eric Naivasha. Thank you very, very much for telling us how we are in the foundation, ensuring that we remain resilient. So I'll move on to the next pillar, which is really around digitally or technologically capacitizing our businesses. The world has turned digital. And unless our businesses can be connected via digital capabilities, then they will find themselves limited into how they can grow and scale up. So for them to really be competitive, we are empowering them. We are enabling them to access their financial services from the comfort of their wallet, as well as their laptops, wherever they are across the world. And this is a very critical thing because many African businesses have been challenged. If you go online today, in the US and in many other markets, one of the biggest marketplaces is actually Amazon. In China, it is called what? Alibaba. Billions of shillings or dollars get transacted on a daily basis using those platforms. So we are really strengthening and encouraging our businesses to go, the African businesses, to go and take advantage of digital capabilities that exist. It has to begin by strengthening connectivity in the world, and more specifically, even in Africa. I'm very privileged today to see one of our key clients who's actually giving us that capability. And I know she's smiling because she was not expecting that I will call her. So I want to invite Rebecca, who is the CEO of a company called Fireside that works very closely here in the market with one of the technology companies to talk about how she's doing it here in Kenya, but also regionally, because she has begun to benefit from this particular plan where we are telling her it's not just here in Kenya. Are there opportunities you see beyond the Kenyan market? So Rebecca, because I know you're going to have breakfast and you're going to have lunch, we now welcome you to tell us how your company is basically making this a reality. Welcome. Karibu sana. And I know all of you in the room, so be ready to make a comment. Rebecca, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Humphrey. I am very delighted to be here. And I am glad to represent all the women in Kenya in business. Fireside is an engineering solutions company. We provide telecommunication, electrical, civil, and telecommunication services. So what we do is that we provide companies like Equity and Safaricom with their digital solutions to be able to grow their businesses. So whenever you see anybody building fiber from one country to the other, from one region to the other, most likely that will be a Fireside employee who is doing it. If you see the towers that are growing, and if you heard that Safaricom has entered the Ethiopian market, and Fireside is one of the companies that is building the network there to be able to allow them to grow that market. And I'm hoping you'll have such a session for Ethiopia, because it is one of the markets that is least tapped in Africa, and it is going to grow in the next few years. So now that you've ambushed me, when it comes to growing the business, we appreciate what Equity Bank is doing, because we want to meet with the international companies that are looking to grow in the market and that are looking to expand within the region. So you have been very supportive to our business in terms of providing loan opportunities and services to grow from one country to the other. We are now in Kenya, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. And when it came to bidding for work, the bank, especially Equity Tanzania, was very instrumental, because for any business that is growing, you can go to a new market if you don't have an anchor client. And most likely an anchor client will ask you if you have a bank account that is local. And a bank will not open an account if you already don't have what? If you're not trading and if you're not operating within that market. So, but with Equity, you're able to negotiate with them, because they know you from Kenya, they can open an account, and then when you regularize a position with the regulator, then you can be able to proceed. So for us, we were able to go ahead and get the business and get the paperwork going, even as we were opening that account. And that has helped the business grow.
Why are we doing this? It is to demonstrate that it is not just show and tell. It is landing on the ground. Rebecca started this company a couple of years ago, and from its infancy, they have now become one of the largest supporters for fiber optic capability, data, Wi-Fi connectivity in Kenya. And now you can hear she's scaled up to Tanzania, where this team has come from, and just recently is also doing business and work in Ethiopia. And remember, she's a woman in business who have traditionally been excluded from financial services. So we chose to take the lead, and we are working with many others like her. There is a team that she works with of about 250 women who are also in business, and we are supporting them to ensure that when we are looking at digital capability and enabling our customers to do their business online, that indeed the infrastructure has actually been set up for it to become a reality. You know, I just remembered, when we talk about SMEs, it's very critical for us to know that we not only support the larger SMEs, but we also support them right from their infancy. And in this room, there is an individual that I see that is very critical in supporting businesses in the SME space. I want to ask a lady that runs an incubation plant or an incubation business to come and tell us how she's working together with Equity to enable those small businesses, those women who are in the manufacturing space, to actually scale up. So Amina, are you somewhere in the room? Okay, I would like you to come up and just tell us more about this organization that you're leading. Let's appreciate Amina. She runs an organization called Above the Radar, and she'll talk about a specific project that is very close to her heart, navigating the bureaucracies, and how Equity Bank is now working with her to ensure that those small businesses can become the big manufacturing businesses for tomorrow. And these are women in business, I believe. Amina.
Thank you very much. Now, this is a real ambush. I didn't expect this. If I do get nervous, I have a tendency to speak in Swahili, so bear with me. Good morning, everybody. Jambo, kila mtu mwenye ako kwa hii room. Assalamu alaikum to those who are Muslims. Nice to see all of you. The journey began in 2019 when I set up the ATR. The ATR stands for Above the Radar, meaning that a lot of the manufacturing that takes place within Kenya or within Nairobi, specifically Nairobi, for women, they tend to operate below the radar. We say chini ya maji in Swahili, meaning that they avoid all the ministries or, let's say, for example, trying to get certification and so on for the fear of the unknown. So when I recognized this, I said to myself, the best way forward is to actually educate these women and let them understand that it's not as difficult as they think. Because sometimes we talk amongst ourselves, it becomes hearsay. So the journey began 2019, 2020, during COVID period. We took the advantage of making sure that we educate the women to understand and also try and become compliant. So it was a pretty exciting journey. The same year, 2020, 2021, we also partnered with Equity. They were able to handhold us in regards to educational programs, bookkeeping, how do you manage your finances and so on, which the women needed. Currently, I've been handholding over 120 women in manufacturing. So we cover 4 sectors: food, furnishing, textile, and cosmetics. So it's been an exciting 4-year period. And with the assistance of Equity, we're very, very happy because we also were given a particular branch and a relationship manager, and we have this red carpet treatment. Any of our members who go there for assistance in regards to loans or just understanding the banking system and so on. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Thanks. I think I've covered it all.
Thank you very much, Amina. I just want to demonstrate that indeed this is not rehearsed, it's not choreographed. It's really at the heart of what the organization is doing. And hence when you hear a testimonial of a business that has been supported, of a group that has been empowered, just now we've talked about 250 women who are doing fiber optics and technology capability. Now we've heard about others who are in manufacturing, and it's a beautiful hub that they have set up where businesses who would otherwise be doing it in their homes now have a place where they can make sure all the regulation has been complied with. They have the support in terms of equipment and in terms of marketing, etc. And I believe these small cottage industries that are mushrooming and growing very quickly today are going to be the mega businesses for tomorrow. Some of the products that they produce, shall I say some or all the products that they produce, are top-end quality products straight from the ground here in Africa and here in Kenya. And you can be sure that they have the relevant mark of quality. So thank you very much, Amina, for just talking to us about that. Now, we also talk about regional trade, and we talked about regional trade. We've covered those. In a short while, I'll also be demonstrating how we are really working together with different governments to ensure that this becomes a reality. I'll just quickly talk about the objectives of the plan. Maybe best if I speak from the next slide, and then I'll just allow someone who's in the audience, a VVIP who has entered the room in the audience, just to talk to us about some of the thoughts that she has with regards to how, as a country and as a government, and as business people, we can work together towards scaling up regional trade. These are some of the measures that we put in place to ensure that the plan lands on the ground. What are some of those things that we are doing? Our objective is to provide financial inclusion to 100 million customers. The region that we operate in, the East and Central Africa region, has got close to 300 million people. The actual number is about 270. We want to provide financial inclusion to 100 million customers. Where are we at today? We have somewhere around about 17 million customers, 17.5 million customers who bank and provide financial support or banking services through Equity Bank. Within the next 3 years, we want it to be 100 million. And why is this important? Is it just because we want more and more customers? No. It is because we know by having access to financial services, as an individual, you have the opportunity to have your life transformed and to have dignity. Because many people have been excluded from financial services, and so they are not able to grow in their businesses. In that journey, we want 5 million borrowing businesses, meaning we will pump out liquidity. And we do that in a process that we call ecosystem banking. Jeremy, if you could come and talk to us just very briefly about how you are supporting SMEs in the country and ensuring that these ecosystems, these 5 million borrowing businesses, are actually capacitated. Jeremy is our director for small and medium enterprises, and as you can hear, the foundation of the bank is really around SME. So Jeremy, just talk to us about how you're playing in this space. Thank you.
Thank you, Humphrey, and good morning to our guests and our customers. I head MSME in Equity Bank, and MSME we say, we call it a segment called business banking. As Humphrey has demonstrated and has said, our main objective around the Marshall Plan is to ensure that we create businesses, we create consumers, we create jobs, and we ensure that 65% of equity business, 65% of equity business is derived from MSME. And how do we do this? Our main objective at the MSME is to ensure that all our MSMEs are formalized, are registered, are capacity built, so that they can take opportunities created by the other pillars around the MSME. I heard George talk about food and agriculture, talk about trade, someone talked about manufacturing. All these opportunities, enormous opportunities that will be created by those other pillars, the people to take opportunity and to take those opportunities created by those other pillars are MSMEs. So our key role in the Marshall Plan is to ensure that all our SMEs are formalized so that they can take these opportunities. Our second objective is to ensure that they are also capacity build. And through the foundation with Anthony Kiogora, we train MSMEs on financial literacy, and we coach and train them about entrepreneurship, so that as these enormous opportunities arise out of the Marshall Plan, it's only MSMEs in Africa that will take these opportunities. So I just want to say in summary, that is our main objective, with outcomes of creating jobs. 50 million jobs will be created out of this through leading to 25 million businesses, so that then the ultimate beneficiaries of the MSME plan will come from our own entrepreneurs in the local setup in Africa. And finally, at the MSME also, what we also do to ensure that then as they take those opportunities is to create a capacity in terms of availing resources through lending to them. And Humphrey said this morning, a fund has been set out by Equity Group that then will support the MSMEs to be able to take those opportunities so that they can exploit them as they come in from food and agriculture, manufacturing, the trade corridors, and also ICT platforms. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. So I will quickly run through those measures of success and then just invite a very important guest who's also joined us. So we've said that we want to fund 5 million businesses, 25 million borrowing customers. In so doing, we will create 25 million jobs. Those are direct job opportunities which will be created. And we also recognize that this also generates another 25 million indirect jobs. And that's why it becomes very critical for us to provide both financial inclusion, but also lending to these businesses. I've talked about our loan mix being 30% to food and agriculture. I've also talked about manufacturing, that 25% of our portfolio lending will go to value addition in the manufacturing space. We have made a commitment to be the best and #1 trade finance bank in the region. Jeremy has talked about how we're going to catalyze and support MSMEs. Eric Naivasha talked about financial literacy and social empowerment and transformation that's going to these businesses. Enabled ecosystems is being made a reality with the partnerships that we have at the moment. And just to amplify the message and the work around regional and intercontinental trade, it's my privilege to note that we have an ambassador in the room. We are very privileged to have Ambassador Vivian Kuma, who is the ambassador from Cameroon into Kenya, who has joined us this morning. And I would just like to give her an opportunity to just make some remarks, some comments, her thoughts about how, you know, this business across Africa and how we connect with Cameroon from her perspective, and you as business people, how this can become a reality from this front. So Vivian, you are most welcome. We say karibu, I'm sure you know the word karibu. Thank you very much.
Asante, Mr. Moderator. Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to be here, although I didn't expect to speak. I was practically hijacked by Basil, and I decided to honor his request because I haven't seen him in more than 10 years. So that said, also I wasn't expecting to say the word here. But since it's business, and I would say Africa is a business field, and whoever has products can market them in Africa. And Cameroon is one of those countries you can't do business without entering Cameroon. I heard you mention equity activities in Central Africa. In West and Central Africa, I would like to know which part of Central Africa. Is it the larger Central Africa of ECAS, or the Central Africa of the CEMAC region?
So it's actually the DRC that was required.
Yeah, that is ECAS. Because you can't do business within the CEMAC region without entering Cameroon. Cameroon is the gateway to Central Africa, and it's made up of 6 countries, and we are boasting to be the leadership of that part of Africa. So if you want to expand your business, I think you should be talking to Cameroon. And I'm here representing Cameroon, so we can have that discussion after here. And what I heard also that is of interest is the approach to the SMEs. Because we have a very strong introduction of SMEs in Cameroon right now, and those SMEs need funding. And the thing I also want you to answer to me is, what is the value addition that equity might bring into Cameroon? Because we have banks that exist in Cameroon. I can't boast of what they do because I'm not in the banking sector, but I would like to know what is the value added factor that Equity Bank can bring into Cameroon. And I think if you come with a community-based approach, that can also galvanize a lot of interest from the population. So I remain open to any suggestions or encounters you might want to have with me. And please be reminded that Cameroon is an open market looking for investors. If you come to Cameroon, you wouldn't miss it. Now, coming to the question you mentioned about Cameroon-Kenya relations. Economically, we are not very strong. We don't have very strong relations because we don't yet have formal agreements. You know, for you to operate in a diplomatic way, you need to have the joint agreement between the countries on which domains you want to have partnerships. We are still very low on that because this is our first mission in Kenya. We are still working on that, but I think that the private sector can push the government to fast-track things and then influence business relations between Cameroon and Kenya. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. That's what I can say for now.
So do we have any questions to Vivian about opportunities in Cameroon? Any question? And of course, I will allow Basil to have the first one. But any other questions that you may have with regards to how we can strengthen our partnership and participate with Cameroon? I'll start with Basil because you invited Vivian. So you have to give a question. And then any other person.
That's a good one. But before I go to Her Excellency Vivian Nainkuma, I'll first of all start with the Kenyan and Ambassador of the United States of America, who actually flew to Minnesota to be of great support to this trade mission. And in return, we flew also to the U.S. Kenyan Embassy in Washington, D.C. to appreciate him and also to beg for easy access to visas for the Kenyan community, for the business community, for our trade mission, and just within a heartbeat. All of us, visas, and we're here with no stress. Her Excellency, tell us about how will or is the Cameroon Embassy in Kenya facilitating business opportunity to access the Central African market of Cameroon? Thank you.
Yes, Basil, thank you. So far, what I've observed is that we have so many Kenyans going to Cameroon, but that is on private basis or to work with some companies that invite them. Officially, we have not had official missions per se in the economic domain, although we have had with ministries, governors, counties, we have had a couple of missions from Kenya to Cameroon. And coming back to visa facilitation, I don't know if there are any of you here who have visited our office for visas. We fast-track visas 48 hours maximum.
for people who are going to Cameroon. But if you have the luxury of time, you can take up to 5 days if you are not in a rush. But the practice is 48 hours, the visa must be out. So if you drop your visa today, by tomorrow afternoon you have it. Thank you.
Any other questions, or we are happy with the responses received from Her Excellency Vivian? All right, your people are happy. Thank you very much. We really appreciate. I know we've been sitting for a while, and so we want to bring this first session to a close before we have tea break. But just to ensure that we are on the same page, I just want to test for our recognition of this plan. It's very critical to us, and I believe it also speaks to yourself. What did we say was the first pillar under the Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan? Number 1 was food and agriculture. Thank you very much. Number 2 was manufacturing. So when you grow the food, then we make sure that there is some value addition that happens. Number 3 was trade and investment, that then you can access markets like Cameroon and indeed globally. Number 4 was what? MSMEs. Yeah? So we're coming there just now. So MSMEs. So if you're an MSME, we are interested in strengthening our support. Our portfolio will remain geared towards MSMEs. And then good sir here continues to remind us, number 5 is energy, environment. We call it social transformation, making sure that we have taken care of an environment for a good future tomorrow. We educate our businesses so that they actually remain relevant beyond today. And then lastly, which is what, number 6, what was it? Huh? Technology-empowered ecosystems, as was very beautifully articulated by Rebecca, who is one of our customers here. Ladies and gentlemen, this really is the heartbeat of what is going to help African businesses to basically recover and to become resilient. That we shall continue to play a much bigger role in financial inclusion in Africa. I want to pause here, stop here, before we take a lunch break. Is there any question or clarification needed before we take, did I say lunch break? No, tea break. My apologies. Any questions that are in the room with regards to the plan, or you have a good understanding of it? I see a question right there. Somebody can help me with a microphone. There's one here. I'll start off right here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Robert Gateru from Riara University, Vice Chancellor. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. My comment or question is around the youth. You have alluded to the youthful demographic in Kenya and in Africa in one of the resources around growing consumption and also around the social and environmental transformation. But I have not got quite how you are empowering the youth themselves. There is empowering the businesses, there is consumption, but what are we doing to empower the youth? I say this because, for those of you who know the demographics, that Africa is blessed with a very youthful population. And these youth are the ones who are going to drive the plan that we are talking about. So I see opportunities for a lot of academia, industry linkages, that now as a bank and as an ecosystem, we would be able to tap into enhancing the capacity of our youth to take advantage of these opportunities across Africa, whether through MSMEs, whether through employment, whether through entrepreneurship, so that they also create their own businesses and create jobs. So I think there's opportunities there for partnerships between academia and industry so that the youth are the fuel for the recovery plan. Otherwise, very, very good plan, exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. If you just put up my presentation one more time, I'll take you to a slide that talks to that. Is Kiogora in the room? No, he isn't. And neither do we have Margaret in the room. Just let me take you to one slide that talks about what we are doing to the youth. Keep going. Yep. If you look at that slide, it's talking about 37,000 scholars who have passed through the hands of Equity Bank. I'm tempted to call David Nyamo just to talk to us about how we support Wings to Fly and also Young Africa Works. Happy to tag team on that. Okay, I'll talk about Young Africa Works, but I'll allow you to talk about our sponsorships, Wings to Fly, Equity Leadership Program. But let me start by saying this. Equity Bank is the largest parent, is the largest single parent in our systems of learning. Every year, we take on board bright students who come from underserved or disadvantaged communities. Top girl, top lady, top gentleman in almost every county. And we give them an education throughout high school, fully funded by Equity Bank. They go ahead, and when they excel in their high school, their education in high school or secondary school, we allow them to access opportunities anywhere in the world. And I want to take pride in the fact that some of them go to Ivy League schools, whether it be Harvard, it be Yale, it be MIT, wherever it is, where their skills and capacities have taken them, we will fully fund their learning journey. Now, we also recognize that not every one of them will go to Yale or Harvard or some of these schools that we are referring to. All I'm saying is that the bank is empowering that young demographic. And when we visit our schools, we will find that if you were to ask how many have gone through the scholarships and the sponsorships that's been provided by Equity Bank, you will find a vast number of them are actually will actually stand up. The second thing I want to say is the Equity Leaders Program. So they have acquired the skills, they've acquired the learning. So where do they plug in if there are limited job opportunities? We give them first priority. Remember, these are the brightest brains. We give them first opportunity to have job openings within Equity Bank. Indeed, some of the people who may be in the room who are our staff and in our branches have actually gone through the Equity Leadership Program. So we absorb them into the organization so that they can continue enhancing the cause, the purpose, the vision, the mission of the bank. Brightest brains being channeled into financial services and giving them that opportunity. I did not get to talk about our clinics. We call them Equity Afia. We currently have about 56. This number is dated. It's about 56. We plan to scale up, I think, to about 200 before very long, maybe in the next 6 months to 1 year, maybe growing all the way to 200 very soon. These Equity Afia businesses are run by scholars who have gone through the program and have decided to become medical doctors, we give them the opportunity to run these clinics. So when we talk about empowering the youth and giving them opportunity, I think there are very clear demonstrations of how we are actually doing it in a practical way. We would have talked about the Young Africa Works program, and I know Kyogora is not in the room at the moment, but we take them through skills training. Research has showed us that when these young businesses go through the training that I think Rebecca talked about, that these women in business have gone through, to understand accounts, to understand marketing, to understand human resource, to understand governance, to understand compliance to taxation, to understand the record keeping that is necessary for you to be able to access funding, to access digital capabilities, which is going to enable you to access financial services. All of that has increased the survivorship of this business from roundabout, I think the statistics show that 1 in 10 businesses generally fail within the first 3 years of existence. Sorry, 1 in 10 businesses actually collapse. But the survival rate of businesses has jumped up through this training. I believe 8 out of 10 who have gone through this particular training through the Young African Works program actually survive and grow on to become medium businesses and then can become the large businesses in the future. And as you can see there, we have impacted many farmers, 2.8 million farmers who have gone through this training. We have disbursed loans, I think amounting to 135 billion shillings to this particular, this is $1.3 billion that has been granted to these MSMEs. So to answer your question, this is how Equity Bank is actually participating towards empowering and supporting this young demographic for them to be able to be capacitized for the future. So again, it lands on the ground in a logical way. However, we recognize that the challenge is far bigger than we are able to address. We do our part, and we hope that other people, other partners can actually do their part as we help solve the challenges of this young demographic. Another question? And I hope we are okay, sir. Any other question? All right. I think with that, you will allow me to take my seat and take further instructions from Erastus over where we'll have our tea and when we get back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's the dawn of a new day over Mbeya in Tanzania, a country that has the potential to supply food to the region and particularly rice, for which it has a clear comparative advantage. Rice as a food and cash crop is the second most treated cereal in Tanzania after maize. It is grown in many parts of the country, but mostly in southwestern region where farmers grow the crop by irrigation and rain-fed production. Mbeya rice lands account for most of the national rice output. Most of the rice produced here is high-quality Salo rice variety. A significant proportion of the lower-yielding but more aromatic rice, Mwenda Mbio, is also grown here.
Tuna mpango wa kutafuta masoko nje kwa sababu mashine ya kumenyea tunayo. Godown la kuhifadhia tunalo. Kwa hiyo issue hapo ni kutafuta, tuna mpango wa kutafuta masoko nje ili tuweze kuuza mchele badala ya mpunga. Tukipata soko Kenya, tukipata soko Uganda, tukipata soko Malawi, maadamu liwe soko tu lenye tija.
Naishukuru serikali kwa sababu kwanza imetujengea miundombinu. Tuna mifereji sisi hapa. Kwa maana hiyo tunaweza kulima wakati wote. Naweza kulima wakati wa kiangazi, naweza kulima pia wakati wa masika. Na hili bonde letu linakubali muda wote kufanya kilimo hiki cha mahindi.
The prospect for export of rice to the East African Community member countries, which now includes the Democratic Republic of the Congo, is immense. Kenya alone is a huge market. With an annual demand for almost 1 million metric tons against local production of only 180,000 metric tons, the shortfall is met by shipped imports from faraway Thailand, Pakistan, India, and Myanmar. A sizable 37,000 metric tons are hauled in by road from neighboring Tanzania. A review of the rice subsector by Equity Bank revealed that financial support of the whole rice value chain would not only increase production, but also increase stakeholders' income to ultimately transform lives and livelihoods. Equity's initial partnership with farmer members of Ipatagwa Rice Scheme reveals that there is a hunger for support of rice farmers who own between an acre and 10 acres. While financial support is necessary, entrepreneurship training is critical to ensure farmers practice farming as a business.
Sasa wewe kujua kwamba kule kuna soko, unahitaji mtu wa pili kukupa jicho, si ndio? Sasa ndio maana hiki kitu tumekuja sasa. Kuhakikisha kwamba tunaunganisha wakulima wetu, wazalishaji na masoko ambayo yako nje ya Tanzania. Kwa maana kama kuna watu wako Kongo, wako Rwanda, wako Kenya, basi wapate kujua kwamba sasa hizi tuna mchele ambao tunautegemea wapi? Isenyera.
Mimi na familia yangu tunalima eka 7 na mpunga. Equity inawahisha mkopo kuleta. Kwanza haina usumbufu wowote. Sisi wakina mama tukikopa hiyo mikopo itatufaidisha sana kwenye kilimo, hasa hata kwenye pembejeo. Sisi wakina mama tukipata pembejeo nasi tutakuwa juu zaidi.
Tangia mwaka jana 2021 nimeweza kuingia kuomba mkopo katika benki ya Equity. Kweli niweza kuomba milioni 5 na benki ilinipa kwa muda mwafaka. Nilikuwa ninalima ekari 3, lakini kwa 2001-2002 nimeweza kulima ekari 12 na nilivuna gunia 187.
Ipatagwa scheme is but one of the 5 rice schemes that are over 1,500 acres each, with Mbuyuni at double that acreage. In all these schemes, rice is grown by irrigation from waters drawn from Kimani River, a tributary of Rufiji River downstream. During Nane Nane celebrations held in Mbeya, Tanzania President Samia Suluhu Hassan re-emphasized the importance of rice production at an event where farmers received delivery of power tillers from Equity.
Mheshimiwa Rais, tumetumia kama wakulima wa kikundi cha Ubaso kutoka wilaya Mbalali. Tumeanza kulifeka mwaka wa jana 2021-22. Tumepewa power tiller 35 kutoka Equity na trekta moja aina ya Mahindra. Zimetusaidia kutoka kwenye kipato cha gunia 15 mpaka kufika gunia 40 kwa heka moja.
Katika mwaka 2021, sekta hizi za kilimo zilichangia 26% kwenye pato la taifa. Zikatoa ajira kwa wananchi wastani wa 65.6 na kuchangia 65% ya upatikanaji wa malighafi ya viwanda. Pia zilichangia kiwango cha utoshelevu wa chakula kinachozalishwa hapa nchini kwa zaidi ya 100% na kuzalisha ziada kwa ajili ya soko la nje. Hata takwimu kutoka Benki Kuu ya Tanzania zinaonyesha kwamba katika mwaka 2021 bidhaa ya mchele pekee imeingizia taifa jumla ya shilingi bilioni 476.8 ikilinganishwa na shilingi bilioni 176.5 kwa mwaka 2020.
By far, the most challenging aspect of the rice value chain is marketing. A director of Ruhie Rice Milling and Warehousing Service Company, Raphael Mbaise, has 55,000 bags of paddy in his stores. The farmer, Cam Miller, started with 1.5 acres of land under rice, but today he produces rice on 200 acres. With 20 tons milling capacity per day, Mbaise could clear his warehouses by milling the paddy, but instead he staggers the milling because of a constricted market outlets. Mbaise's views have advised Equity's determination to partner with stakeholders on the rice value chain to provide project finance for warehouse construction, and payment solutions for wholesale and retail traders.
Our rice is sold in various regions, say Dar es Salaam, Zanzibar, Tunduma, and Mwanza. But all these points, they are related to outside the country. So those who are taking our rice to Tunduma, they are looking at the Congo market. And those who are going to Mwanza, actually, they are going to Kenya direct.
The bank is ready to provide asset financing for mechanization of farming and for transport of exports and imports to various destinations across East Africa.
So we as Equity Bank, we have committed that we'll link our farmers to those markets because they appreciate that buyers from Congo-DRC, buyers from Rwanda, Kenya, they offer them a reliable market and good price for their produce.
Rice is not the only crop grown in the region. Maize, the most traded cereal in the country, is also grown here alongside wheat, beans, peas, and soya. Indeed, not far from the rice fields of Ipatagwa is the maize growing farmlands near Ilaji in Uswahilini. Maize is grown by irrigation and from rain in season.
Nimejipanga Equity ikinipatia mtaji niweze kulima zaidi hata ya eka 5. Natarajia kuuza soko la Inyala, natarajia kuwauzia watu wa aina mbalimbali, kwa mfano Kenya, Malawi wanakuja kuchukua zao letu la mahindi.
Kweli kuna changamoto kubwa ambazo huwa zinatukabili sisi kama wakulima wa kilimo cha mahindi. Changamoto ya kwanza ambayo ndio kubwa ni ukosefu wa mtaji. Kwa sababu tunashindwa kuzalisha mazao mengi kwa sababu hatuna mtaji ambao utatuwezesha kuweza kununua pembejeo za kilimo kwa wakati, hususan katika upande wa madawa na upande wa mbolea. Alikadhalika hata mbegu bora ambazo tunaamini kabisa Equity Benki wao wakiweza kutuwezesha, tunaamini tunaweza tukatatua hizo changamoto kwa wakati.
With a 200 million people market in the region across the middle of Africa, trade in agriculture will grow, supported by Equity's Africa Recovery and Resilience Plan.
The strategy we have adopted is the African Recovery and Resilience Plan. We have leveraged on the East African Community Common Market and leveraged on the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's a regional plan, it's a continental plan, because we have realized the only thing that can support us to succeed is the market. The larger the market, the better.
Agriculture industry players in Tanzania and across the East African Community member states are encouraged to tap on the 700 billion Kenya shillings plan to feed the region.
Every day, over 15 million members are transforming Africa. 15 million members, empowered to learn, to create, to grow, to harvest, to lead, to dream. Equity. Karibu member.